Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second discussion for The Warrior Prophet, which is the second book of the Prince of Nothing trilogy by R. Scott Bakker. We have been reading this book about 100 pages every week, and today's discussion is for chapters 5 through 8. And next week, we will meet again to discuss chapters 9 through 13. That puts us at a little over 100 pages, but it's a good breakup because the book is 600 pages and we'll get there in 6 discussions. With me, I have my wonderful friend, Steve. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Varsha?
I'm doing fine. I had a decent day at work and I'm excited to discuss these 4 chapters.
Nice. It
What?
is a little strange. Oh, sorry. I was just saying it
No,
is a
go
little
ahead.
strange reading this book around the holidays. It's kind of a weird contrast, but sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, did you see the thread that's going on the page showing what are you currently reading? Paramita's working her way intensely through Berserk.
Oh, is she really? Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, and she's making all these jokes about. I hope she's joking about how Berserk is giving her cozy holiday vibes.
It's very cozy. Yeah.
Very cozy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. So for myself, I've been finding that I need to put the book down at wherever we stop, right? Like I don't need to put it down, but it's a good place to stop.
Hmm.
And then in about 3-4 days, I'm like, oh, what's Akamian up to? I'd like to know. And then I'll feel like I need to go pick it up. So I'm feeling really good, and I don't actively decide whether or not I'm liking a book. It's signals like this that I take to see how much I like it. Like, oh, I'm missing the characters, or I'm missing the world, or I'm thinking about it when I'm doing something else. So, yeah, it's been going really well for me so far. Do you do that? Do you actively judge a book as you go about, oh, I'm liking this, I don't, or so on?
Yeah, I try. I try to like kind of. But I think the pace we're going is good because it's about 100 pages. I'm finding a lot more things that I missed
Hmm.
the second read, and that's the great thing about these kind of books is that you'll always find things that you missed because there's
Hmm.
so much in them. But I try to. I think Malazan kind of changed that for me. Like
Hmm.
I try to not overthink things or not worry if I'm not getting something and just go for the ride because otherwise it'll really bother me. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm really curious about how you read. I think was it the first 2 chapters from today's um, reading? I think chapters 5 and 6,
mm,
because I think of all the chapters we've read so far, those were particularly difficult for me.
hmm,
One, because in general, I'm not too much a fan of action scenes or battle scenes. I wait for them to get over before I get to other parts of the book. But the other reason was there were so many names thrown about of factions. It was hard to keep up. And there's like 5 names thrown out in a single sentence. And normally, I see a name I don't come across. I decide whether to go look up the glossary. I'm like, do I really care enough about it to stop my reading to go look it up? I'm definitely not doing 5 at a time. So I interpreted from context to figure out which groups they were referencing, because it's, oh, 3 versus 2 or whatever. And then
mhm.
eventually something will be said that will tell me who's what. And that's all I care about. But it was still hard to get through. I had to take big breaks between sections of this chapter. How did this go for you?
You know, the first recall these two chapters, and I'm the same way with battle scenes. I'm I was the one. I was the one telling everybody not to worry so much about factions, and then I was trying to figure it all out when I was rereading this one. I think the part that was difficult for me in this section was all the different movements and like who was doing what and when and all the different names to try to know like who's maneuvering where. So I remember the first time I read it, I did struggle with it, and I still struggle with this one. I think I kind of have a better idea what happened, but it's still a little fuzzy for me. It it did seem very and it's kind of known as like the a lot of people's favorite battle in the series.
Hmm.
So it is. It was neat on one hand, but at the same time, I was a little bit confused. I had to go back and reread certain parts because I think there was I kept feeling that there was something that I was missing. Like there was a significant event that I just wasn't understanding was happening.
Mm.
So yeah, that's it's kind of strange. Yeah, but yeah, it is a little challenging to read and to keep up with who's doing what.
Yeah, yeah. And the other reason this was slightly different for me was, at least in all the fantasy I have read so far, and some of the sci-fi that has a lot of action scenes, and I'm not very well read in either genre, I have to prefix by saying, uh, it is the action scenes are typically sort of one-on-one fights, or three or four people fighting against each other. This was mostly descriptions of groups clashing together and the outcome. Um, I think we saw sort of an example of this in the first book too, with the Sylvendi versus what are they, Nancer um, battle with the Confus, the one that Confus led against Nayur's people, but this was a much more large scale thing than that, and the numbers involved are so much bigger. What they were talking about, 250,000 people towards the end. So yeah, it was also interesting from that perspective, which made it both easier for me to read and harder, because once again with action scenes, I don't. It's not that I dislike them. It's just I don't visualize when I read, so they're not fun for me. Um, so these battle sequences felt slightly different in that regard. I haven't come across that many examples of battle scenes like this in other books, I don't think.
Yeah, it seemed it was very large scale, and all the numbers I think make it even more confusing because of there's so many. I think it's hard for me anyway. It's hard to wrap my mind around so many people moving a certain way and the different factions and stuff. But I think the part that I did like is when we do get to the individual people, and I think it even mentions there's a few pages like on page 125. It mentions, I forget who it was, someone somewhere, I think it was just a soldier falls down and he's like swatting at the sky because of all the confusion and madness and kind of all the orders and strategy and everything just goes out the window and everyone's just trying to survive. Like you forget all about what you're supposed to be doing or where you're supposed to be or your movements. And when it comes down to it, you're just trying to not get killed. So
Yeah.
I did like that. I did like that. That part of it is when we kind of zoom in and look at someone's experience instead of like an overview of these massive armies and trying to visualize what's happening. So the large scale stuff I was kind of lost on, but I did like when we get closer and get more personal with the people in the battle.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought, I mean, I maybe I'm coming off as complaining about it a little bit, but I do, I did really appreciate this chapter a lot for what it did, right? To give us the sense of this large scale impact. Like the chant, as I'm flipping through the pages now, I'm seeing, I forgot about the chant, in our eyes the gods shall lurk, that the Indidi repeat over and over, and that gives them power, right? It starts as something that they use for courage, and it turns into something that gives them power, almost not exactly like magical power, but just the confidence that it builds with them as things take a turn for the better for them. I thought, yeah, that was really wonderfully done.
Yeah, like I think that rallying cry kind of gives people courage in those moments of we're all going to die to
Yeah.
kind of like you're a part of something. But the one thing that another part that I liked that I missed the first time we talked about in our discussions on the first read with Daniel and Katerina, but the Saban's experience in the battle.
Oh yeah. Oh, that we have to talk about that. I'm so glad you brought it up, because that was a big talking point for me today. The whole this is close to the ground. This is not exactly where the no god died, but he did. uh, and so that's creating some hallucinations, sort of. It seems like for Sorbonne.
I'm not saying. I'm just.
Oh,
Yeah,
Dan's here.
it's. Oh, Dan's
Sorry.
here. Cool.
Oh,
Hey, Dan.
hey
Hey
Dan.
guys, I just
Glad you can make
remembered,
it.
and I was like, I was like, oh, I need to discuss, talk. I miss talking about shit.
Oh yeah,
But
cool.
it
Nice.
was, yeah, because it's been like a month, I think, from the last time.
I
Yeah,
know. Jeez.
we're, we're talking chapters 8 through no 5 through 8,
Yeah.
and Steve and I were just talking about Sorbonne having his out of body experience during the battle.
Yes.
Hmm.
The
Start. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Go
trying
ahead. Go
to
ahead, Dan.
remember what happened in those chapters. I skimmed through them like a couple of weeks ago, for like the second book.
Mm,
So 5 to 8
It's the
is the
Battle of
battle.
Mangetta.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mangetta?
yeah,
Okay, it's the battle of
yeah.
Mangetta and the part before the battle, right? The setup to the
Hmm.
battle.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were talking about the large scale kind of. We were both discussing how we kind of like get lost in a little bit because of all the
Mm,
different factions and movements and all the other things happening. So maybe you can help us with that if you remember the battle, because it's my second time reading it and I still felt a little confused on what exactly happened. Like I when we zoom in, it's more clear, but when we're like off in a distance, it's hard to follow.
yeah. I don't remember all the bits. I just remember the main points, I guess. The
Mm,
main warfare points of how different, yeah, but right, the different fighting styles, and I guess the Phantom have the light cavalry, and the uh, Inrihi have the heavy cavalry, and it's like, okay, well, if you can get to the light cavalry, then you can destroy them, but if they can keep the distance, then it's impossible to
mm,
win, right? I think that's the whole like central thing that happens, right? That they manage to get the whole like heavy cavalry smashing into their right. But I don't remember like because right, like you said, it says oh this lord does this, and then this lord goes like that and fights that other lord with the banner of some other guy, right? And there's like a bunch of different, like the grand deal of the desert or something. Yeah, at that part I get lost in every battle because there's so many different characters, right, and so many
yeah,
different, I guess like feudal kingdoms that it's easy to get
yeah.
lost.
And I think so. I was at some point. I was telling Steve earlier that I wasn't looking up the names of the factions in the glossary, which is more detailed in this book than in the previous one.
Yeah.
But I did at one point give up and go look the what the Shimei faction, the Shimei whatever
Yeah.
faction. There are only two listed, right? The Scissorim and Kianin, and all other names are Indrithi, apparently. So
Mm-hmm.
like that made it slightly easier for me because I was getting confused about which faction is who,
Okay.
which side, right? That's all I needed to know, and I felt like I didn't even have a grasp of that. um but that helped significantly, knowing that there were
Mm.
just two named Kianin factions, or Fanim factions. However, I do feel like he named a few that weren't in the glossary, but I could
Yeah,
be wrong about that. Yeah.
I think he names some like Phantom grandees or like
Mm,
important nobles, right?
mm, mm.
Uh, I think a couple of them show up again in the future, if I remember
I'll,
correctly.
I'll
Someday
worry about
show
them
up
when
again.
they do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Yeah.
it's not the only battle that happens
Yeah.
in these books.
That's good.
Um, but yeah, the main focus is obviously on the Inrihi, Inrihi.
Mm,
So yeah,
yeah.
don't get too much of the other side. But I think like it's not important to know, oh, this lord did that and that thing. It's just the general flow of battle, I guess.
Mm, yeah.
Right.
People clashing together and killing each other. It's
Yeah, it was
generally.
that and how the different fighting styles match up, right?
Yeah.
It just gives like the impression of what happens, and then the fact that happens like what Sabon saves the
Yeah.
day, I guess.
Steve was about to say something about his out of body experience.
No, I was going to ask Dan what his thoughts are, with of course, spoiler-free thoughts. But Saban's seeing his own face in dead in the battlefield.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it? I'm trying to remember exactly how that happens, because that's like, yeah, because it's a Proph. Well, not a prophecy, I guess, because it's callous that does it, right?
Well, it's where the no god died.
Yeah,
So they're
yeah.
all having these nightmares, and
But callous manipulates him. Well, I guess,
Did it?
yeah. So
Into
who
going
knows
to battle, yeah.
how much of that is like his mental affecting the like maybe everyone has these out of body experiences, but depending on what your mental state is, you're gonna see different things, I guess. So I wonder if like I don't know. There's some Kellos was like seeing, oh, okay, people are seeing weird things, so maybe it can manipulate or something. I don't know.
Oh, I think I don't know. I don't know if I don't recall Callus. No, Callus. He turns Callus away because his mentor figure dies.
Yeah.
At least as far as we've gotten, um, his mentor figure dies, telling him that it's necessary that you know that I never thought well of you, and and so he turns Callus away because he's in a really bad state. The out of body experience we are given to understand is because that battlefield is where the no god died,
Yeah.
and so they are going to, and different people see different things. You're right. Some people encounter skeletons that come up again, and so on.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like what did it say? It's a topos, right?
yeah,
Topoi or something like that. It's
yeah, yeah, which sounded a lot like topology. Which
well, isn't it? That confused me a bit because what it says topos, right?
Mhm. Topos or Topoi, I thought was the
Or is it
Topoi. To- Topi would be the Hindi word for cap.
Okay.
But
I don't know. I'm trying to remember because I remember reading or studying it during, literature because it's a literature. I don't know,
oh,
rhetoric something. I'm trying to re-look at what it exactly means. It's like it's like a theme. But what I remember, I thought it was something like, oh, it's a thing. It's like a thing you go back to. It's like your central theme, and it repeats throughout your argument. That's what I thought I remembered, but it might not be correct.
mm,
Okay.
it's
Oh,
is a
okay. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a commonplace. It's like a. Okay, so like all must die is a topos in oratory. So it's like a common argument or theme or something like that people can take and rework in slightly different ways depending on your what you're trying to say. But I don't know how it relates to this. That's the part
Interesting.
I've always been unsure.
Is it? Is
Maybe
he making
Charlie.
a point about the horror or of battle, of what it can do to even to the very ground? Because
Yeah.
did he say that all topoi are from battlegrounds or just places where really horrible things happened? Is it one or the other?
Yeah, it's like where the wall or something, the fabric between the world and the afterworld becomes thin or something, right? Something like that.
They talk about.
It's like,
Well, there's
yeah,
rumors about. Let me find the page.
like hell leaks through or something. I think they say at some point.
On page 140, they mentioned that it's the heights of So, here we go. So this is topia are like heights, places where one can see far, but where the heights are built with mounds of stone and earth. Topia are built with mounds of trauma and suffering. They are the heights that let us see farther than this world, some say into the outside.
And that's, what did you say? Topiary? Topi?
Topi, Topoi.
Yeah, topoi.
Topia?
Yeah.
Topoi, sorry.
No, yeah, it might be. I'm just trying to figure out what the origin in our world is, right? But I guess there's other things, because it's also a thing in math, I guess, from what I'm Googling is. So it might be like a different thing in... So maybe I don't know.
Yeah. I thought of topology when I saw that word, but I don't know which one makes more sense. And the topology one slightly made more sense because of the height thing,
Yeah.
but the literature one makes sense too. Maybe he's messing with us.
Well, I think you're thinking of topography, not topology. Topology is a different thing. Topology is like it's a math thing. It's studying like, what was it, like connect networks and graphs, I think, and like the shape of surfaces and stuff, I think. It's like the properties of geometric objects.
Endowed with a topological space is a set endowed with a structure.
Yeah,
called a topology. Anyway.
There's a lot of Greek words. It does sound similar to a lot of these Greek words. That's why I was like,
yeah.
Made me think
I wonder
about
if
that.
these two have the same root though, topology and the literature one. That would be interesting. But topography is what?
Okay. So topos in Greek means place.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe it means place, and then it's used in different arguments to indicate, I don't know, topology, study of the place. I don't know. Rhetorics, something, a place that you go back to for your arguments. Maybe that's what it means. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. But yeah, I think if it means place, that makes sense, because it's just like saying this is a place. I guess.
No, I don't want it. No. I want it to mean more than that.
Well, but it means it's a place both in the physical sense, and it's also a place in the metaphysical sense, right?
Yeah.
It's like a structure in metaphysical sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That makes sense. I did love what it said about the place being built from trauma and suffering, though, that it lets you see far, even to the outside. Like, being aware of trauma and suffering will make you more far-seeing. Kind of like how the mandate schoolmen are more aware of the consult because of the constant trauma they have to go through with Seshwata's dreams.
Yeah.
I was going to say something I forgot before we got into the discussion about topoi or not.
Yeah. I do like that metaphor, though, that he uses to describe what it is. It's a very effective idea.
I agree.
Yeah. There's a lot of very nice metaphors and a lot of nice ways of explaining things, which is, I read it and you're like, this is a very good constructed sentence, you know. It's not redundant, it's concise, it sounds good, and it also makes you understand, which is kind of hard to do. Like a lot of the time when I'm writing things, I'm like, this could probably be written in half the number of words in a more effective way, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I'm like that with emails. Don't even get me started on how I try to do fiction. But okay. So I had a vague theory about Sorbonne that is honestly very outlandish and far-fetched. So I don't think that's where we're going, but I want to say it anyway because it's fun to contemplate. So technically we haven't seen anyone else have this out-of-body experience. So nobody else's perspective. So it's possible that other people did and we just aren't aware of it. But if Sorbonne is unique in his experience, I'm thinking, there is fear that the no god is going to be resurrected,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember whether there was any note about what body they will take or if they just be an entity of their own. But if they do need a body,
Mm-hmm.
maybe Sorbonne is the special person that the no god will possess.
Interesting. Interesting. Don't you think so? Interesting theory, Steve.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I wonder.
I feel the sarcasm dripping.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's like, how do I say? You're very far off, but you're also not far off in a certain sense. Like but you're also very far off. I don't know, Steve. It's hard to say, but there's some parts
It's,
of that have some insight.
some parts have some insight. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
But
Yeah.
so,
I feel like you're very far off is one of the kindest ways to say you're straight wrong.
No, I don't say you're wrong. I just think it's an interesting. It's an interesting theory.
I think if you change some, I don't know, if your theory has like 5 different aspects, if you change like some of them, it will be somewhat true. But I don't know. You could technically change any combination of them. But
That's true.
yeah, I'm not gonna say
Fair
it. But
enough.
I think it's fine to speculate a lot, like even outlandish things, because it's not, it could happen.
Yeah. I don't get a sense of. So that's interesting because we have seen some instances of magic in the world, right?
Yes.
But there's
Right.
no sense of. It's a combination of both what is possible in this world and also where the author's thought process might take you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this no god thing, what I just said, the reason I wasn't behind the theory myself is but it feels off because it feels like something you might do for shock value, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
or something that you'd have to like lay a lot of steps to justify or explain.
Mm.
And the author feels a lot more like where he's going feels a lot more measured to me so far. So um I don't know if that makes sense, but basically like I wouldn't expect time travel in this world, for instance. You have to have a certain kind of style or uh I guess lay some groundwork about the
Mm-hmm.
magic to have something like that happen. So
I'm trying to
yeah,
think. Would time travel surprise me
in this world.
in this world? It's a hard question. Would it? I don't know if it would. I don't know if it would.
I mean, the dreams
I
are
mean, is seeing into the past, is that time travel?
yeah, but you're not actually affecting anything. What are your
Or
definitions or
is he?
parameters for time travel? Yeah. Hmm?
Is he? Is it just a vision, or maybe they are traveling to the past every night?
But only looking at it, are they trying to change anything? Or Seshwata's skill can be explained by all the many mandate schoolmen who inhabit him.
I wonder. Maybe, but though, like you get transported into someone else's body and soul, and
mm,
but since you become them, they do what they would have done anyways. Who
mm,
knows?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Because
maybe we'll
I'm
find.
trying to remember. Do they feel the same feelings that Siswada felt at the time, or do they just see what he sees? I think they feel, right, or
I think
no?
they feel it's like reliving it. I think when they have their dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they do relive, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like you're right in a sense because it's like, how do I say it? Like there is magic in the world, but the world doesn't feel magical. You know
Hmm.
what I
Yeah.
mean? It's very
Yeah.
grounded, 99% of it.
Yeah.
And then there's
Yeah.
a 1%
Exactly.
which is batshit crazy magic that is super powerful, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But we haven't seen anything in between, really. right?
No.
Slight magic or herbal magic or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. And there's also the thing with the mark, which I don't think has been explained yet, right? They
Hmm.
talk about the mark, and and they talk also about uh it. I don't know if I was reading this right. I
Hmm.
thought so far that the mark was something a person had, but
Hmm.
something someone said, I forget who, made me think that it's also something you leave on the object of your sorcery.
Yeah.
So it's
I
not just, yeah.
I think you're right. It says at some point you're like, oh, they could feel like the stain of sorcery or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But the scissorim are different
Yes.
in that they don't leave a mark. And it seems they don't have marks either. So why was um why was Akamian so surprised then when Maithanet recognized him? Because okay, was perhaps it was so outlandish that he could be scissorim, right? Is that why? Because
Well, only the few can see the few. So if Maithanet can tell that Akamian is one of the few, then that means that he is also one of the few. So
so
so they can see each other. But if you're not one of the few, then you have no idea.
so the scissorim don't leave a mark, but they can still be recognized as such by
I
the schoolmen.
don't think they can. Can they? I don't think they can. They can't feel them.
I think they just see them. I think they're like they can visually see them. I think.
But can the Caesarum see the mark? Should remember.
Um,
I don't think
I
it's been
think so.
mentioned, right?
Maybe not. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's an interesting. Maithanet is a problem that I'm dying to solve.
Any ideas about Maithanet?
Oh, I mean, honestly, and this is still in the outlandish theory department. I haven't. He's either a scissorim, or I don't think he's working with the consult. I don't think I like that theory very much.
Mm.
Um, or he's Moengus.
Hmm.
I don't know why Moengus would start a holy war against Shime, but
Why do you think
um,
he's not working for the consult?
I
It
don't
would be
think
very
he.
convenient for the consult to have him on their side. Just saying, considering the consult is against the magic schools, right? And the magic schools are the only ones that remember the consult that would be able to oppose them. It would seem very convenient, wouldn't it?
It would, yes. I'm trying to think why, because I mean, honestly, I just didn't like that
And,
theory more than anything else. But so in the beginning, I did think that Mathanet could be
Mhm.
working with the consult. Sorry, Dan, you were saying before I continue. What were you
No,
saying?
no, I'm just saying that we know that one of the trial knights is right
Hmm.
a shapeshifter.
Right, right. He is. Um, and in I think at the very beginning, I thought that it went up all the way to Mathanet, right?
Hmm.
But the fact that they replaced Sarcellus, right, in
Hmm.
this set of 4 chapters. When Sarcellus died, they created another person with the same face.
Yeah.
Maybe they took someone else's body and put Sarcellus's face on them. Or I don't know if they can generate bodies and put the face on them. I don't know how that works. But given that, if the consult if Mathanet is consult, then he should have been someone already in power or already in a position that they need to work with,
Mm.
so that and maybe he could be uh infiltrated, like he could be taken over by the consult later on. But and I also, the other thing is, I don't think anyone's working with the consult. I thought that was true earlier, that the knights were working with the consult. I think
Hmm.
it's just the consult has infiltrated them. I don't think
Mm.
any individuals are working with consults. So Mathanet is, with the information we have so far, Mathanet is either consult or he's not. And it seems unlikely that he is, because he hasn't. been taken over.
Mm.
Like he'd have to be already in a position of power or in a position that they need for him to be consult. That's my reasoning that I just came up with, but it was just
Okay.
a mostly vague feeling that that
Who knows?
that seems like an
Yeah.
unlikely way for this to go.
But maybe the consul took over a random person and then they gave him a bunch of superpowers to make sure that. Because we did hear that he was, he's like a prodigy, right? He's very, very
Yes,
smart and he rose very quickly through the ranks. But maybe that's not
that
the way consul does it. I don't know.
maybe not, but that's also my reasoning for the Moebius theory. So
Mm.
my evidence for Maithanetus Moebius is this. The first was that he rose through the ranks, very similar to how we're seeing Kellis
Yeah.
uh, grow in the ranks in the Holy War. And then second was that Kellis can see the few, even,
Hmm.
and they cannot make him out to be. And Akamian was very, very surprised that he only the few can see the few. If he could, he didn't go from there to maybe that person is Scissorum, right?
Yeah.
Because I assume from that it means that even though the Scissorum don't have a mark, they can make out the Scissorum as such. Um,
Also, the Caesarum are blind, right? If you remember correctly.
Oh,
They
right. They
blind
look a
themselves.
certain way. Right.
So,
Right. So, because of that, so other than the few seeing the few, and I suppose the consult can see each other, Callus can see the sorceress. So, that's another data point for
hmm.
my Moengus, Maithanetus Moengus.
Okay, Maton is
Um,
Moebius.
I don't have any other pieces of evidence, though.
And he wants Kellus to go to Shime for some reason. So
Yeah.
he sent him a vision. And now he's manipulating things to go to Shime. That what you
And
think. Okay.
the Shime bit is actually against my theory because, okay, we have been led to believe
Hmm.
that that Moengus is in Shime,
Yeah.
not, and that's what Callus believes because of the dreams. We aren't privy to what dreams Callus had and
Hmm.
how he concluded that he is in Shime, which, given Kellis's deduction powers, I should probably trust them and say, yeah, he is in Shime. But that also could be a very nice misdirection if it chose to go that
I
way.
think he says it explicitly. He says, like, come to Shime in
He
his
says,
dreams. I think.
okay, and it's come, not go. So,
Is it, I don't remember. That part I don't remember. But I think it says something like, I'm waiting for you in Shime. I think he explicitly
mm,
says it. But again, it could not be true, right? We don't know
mm,
if it's true or not.
yeah. Are the Dunian prone to lying?
Oh,
They're prone to
yeah. Yeah.
manipulation. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, are they prone to lying? I don't know. They're prone to saying things, saying truths about you
Mm,
to manipulate you. But a lot of the time they're true,
right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they don't. I feel like, again, just based on how other things are going, this is a conclusion. I don't think we're told
Hmm.
explicitly in the text. Uh, Lying might be one of the last things they do. It's probably they have access to enough information that they probably don't need to lie.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
like they say something like, if you have to lie, then it means that you're not good enough to do it with the truth or something like that. And it exposes you to more risk because then people can
hmm,
actually check if you say the truth or not, right? I think he
yeah,
said something
yeah.
like that at some point.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't recall that, but that makes sense. That fits in
He says a
perfectly.
lot of things.
with, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay, so
So
Moengus is
Maithanet,
Vishraya, Mathanet.
yes, that's my favorite theory so far. Let's see.
Could be. And Saubon is the vessel for the no god,
Possibly, yeah,
possibly. That's your theory.
possibly.
Okay. Do you like Saubon?
I'm trying to think.
I remember it
Given
was
that,
someone's favorite character, right, in your other podcast, right?
Katerina hated Saban. It
Yeah.
was like a running joke of like how awful Saban is, and I didn't really get it, but now I dislike him more on the second read. Now I kind of see, I was like, yeah, I kind of get it now. Like, I kind of get why she hated him so much.
He reminds me a lot of. Have you seen like that very historically inaccurate movie. What was it? Gnome of Heaven, the Crusade movie.
Mm-mm.
Very popular. I don't know. Well, if you ever watch it, there's a character there, one of the Crusaders, which really reminds me Reynald of some French Chatillon or something. I don't know. He reminds me exactly of Salbon. I think he must have taken it from him or something. I think there was a historical figure, and it was just a crusader which just went around and he liked killing infidels and mistreating lesser beings than him, lesser ranked people than him. But he's got he's a guy.
He's something.
He's something.
What I'm curious about your opinions on Saubon. What do you think, Steve? Do you like him?
I was on the fence before, but on the second read, I just like him more now. He just seems like a scumbag.
And
I mean, how many characters in this book aren't, though? I mean, there are a lot of scumbags. Though.
He seems a lot more than a lot of other ones. Well, I don't know.
He's an opportunist, I think.
Yeah. Well, he knows what he wants, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's going to be some interesting parts in the other books about him. But I think the other parts made me like him more as a character.
Yeah. I like the character.
It's an interesting archetype. It's an interesting character. It's not I don't know. Like a lot of these characters, you think he's simple, but he's not that simple. He's not stupid, you know?
No.
So you might think he's like a stupid for a lot of these ones. You're like, oh, he's a bullheaded fanatical or something, killing guy or something. He's not thinking what he's doing.
But yeah, I did get that impression in this. Like, if I'm being honest, I didn't spend a lot of time forming an opinion. Like, I don't have an opinion of him. I would deduce an opinion based on the fact that his mentor figure died, and his last words were, "I want you to know that I hate you."
Yeah.
He must be a scumbag for the person he thought closest to him to tell him so. For someone who's so responsive to his moods and understands everything about him from his perspective, which must mean that that's true, right? Like when you feel like someone gets you, even if they're just pretending, they are reading something about you. And the result of all that reading is, gosh, I hate you and I really need you to know that I'm going to waste my last breath saying so.
Pretty hardcore. Yeah.
I don't remember. Did we read a lot about Proyas up to now?
Not too much yet.
Okay, not too much yet.
Yeah,
I was wondering what your opinion of him was.
I dislike him based on how he treats Akamian, but I feel like I shouldn't decide based on just that.
Okay, because Akamian is a good guy, sort of.
Yeah. And honestly, so how do I put this? I feel like I believe in Akamian's suffering at face value. Like I believe him when he says he feels bad about this. And I think it's true. Like I'm saying it like I think he's lying, but sometimes suffering is exaggerated and it's not necessarily the other person's fault, right? You're reading something into a situation that maybe doesn't exist. So, but yes, with all that said, with just what information we have, that Akamian was someone that Proyas, like I feel really bad for Akamian, but I don't know yet that I should be angry at Proyas for treating him that way.
You don't know yet about all the backstory and stuff like that of why.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it feels like Proyas's belief system fundamentally changed, which doesn't mean you get to treat people so poorly. That's true. So just on that principle, maybe I dislike him, but he is as characters go, I think he's very interesting, and I would like more from his perspective.
But we know it's also a political reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a sorcerer, right? And they
Yeah.
can't, right? All be very friendly with each other. I don't know. Being friendly with sorcerers is a bit
Yeah.
not
Yeah. For the
great.
holy war.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not, and he doesn't even belong to the school that's specifically tied to the holy
Yeah,
war.
and
So
it's
it
one of the
would look.
schools which is less well regarded, maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The jokers because they see demons everywhere.
Yeah.
Um.
So and right, and a lot of this, from what I've seen up to now, a lot of what is happening, like the political machinations, are pretty important to be able to keep your standing. What's it called? The Janan, Janan,
Yeah. Janan.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know, but
That's
it
true.
is. I wonder what your thought is on, because that's one of the things which was always interested me about this system sort of thing, is like the fact that the sorcerers, right, like they can feel, they know, like they know they're damned, right? They can feel they're
Hmm.
damned. Like how would you approach that if you're like, okay, I can be a sorcerer, but I'll be damned for eternity
Mm.
after? I don't know. It seems,
So,
why would they do it?
how does the damnation work though? Are you damned because you can do magic or because you did do magic?
I think it's because you do magic, right? Because
Mm.
if we remember, what's his name?
Indra.
Inrao, right?
Indra was, yeah, decided to go the other way and he chose to not be damned. But also, is it damnation like the way, how do I say this nicely? The way people in our world believe that about damnation.
Hmm.
Like, you don't know that, okay, coming from an agnostic slash atheist point of view, hell slash heaven in whatever religion you choose to follow
Hmm.
may or may not exist. So the certainty, does it come from belief and faith, or do they actually know? Uh,
Well, one doesn't matter. Like if you believe it, does it matter if it's real or not? Once you make the decision, because we haven't seen up to now anyone say the opposite, right? Everyone is pretty agrees that like nobody's like, oh, I don't think that's true. I'm gonna be fine. I don't think we've seen that, right? So I think we can agree that everybody thinks that in that world. Maybe it's not true, maybe it is true, but everybody thinks that. So when they're making the decision, they make it knowing that, I guess, even if it's
mm,
not true, right? But we have seen that, right? What they're making mad, like the mark looks. It doesn't look like they're angels or something. Let's
hmm.
just put it like that. So there is some concrete evidence, but maybe it doesn't mean anything, right? But there is something showing that it does. You know, you can extrapolate, I guess. Um,
Go ahead, Steve.
Plus,
Yeah.
no, I was just, in this world, I think the decision to to be a magic user, even given the consequences in this world, and now we do get an idea of how powerful sorcerers can be.
yeah.
I think it's like one sorcerer is equal to like how many other like normal people?
I think they said hundreds. Yeah.
Hundreds, yeah. So losing, I think they lost 12. It's a huge blow. So to be that powerful in a world like this,
Hmm.
maybe it's not so bad a deal.
Yeah. The
Maybe.
afterlife is in question, right? But also, I'm not convinced that of the certainty
Hmm.
of damnation, right? I mean, it's kind of like all the things that are forbidden in the religions of our world,
Yeah.
and people either decide that it's worth it or they find a way to
True.
uh, convince themselves that their god is not so cruel, right? um, so I mean, obviously we haven't seen any what's the word I'm looking for, any such justification or rationalization
Hmm.
from any sorceress. But Akamian's not terribly broken up about being a damned person. uh, he's
Yeah.
where was I going with this? Yeah, and the other reason why I'm not convinced is the Scissorim, who
Hmm.
are Indra's water bearers. Apparently, I see another Hindu reference there.
Oh, really?
Indra is the god of rain.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
except I've never seen it spelled this way. It's usually Indra, but
Hmm.
I it feels like a relevant reference. But Indra's water bearers, and also the Sissurum were wearing saffron, I think, if I remember correctly. So that feels Hindu inspired. In any case, I assume Indra is some sort of god or a big mythical figure.
Hmm.
If they are Indra's water bearers, so there are two different religions. So just the question of religion brings up damnation, right? Like if you're so sure that not following your religion causes damnation, then like are you okay to follow a different one? And I don't think we've talked conversions in this world, but that's of question too. So um
Maybe they're damned just because they believe they are, and the Caesareum are not
yeah,
damned because they don't believe they are, because their religion is different.
yeah, yeah. So it does feel more like our world's belief systems rather than
Mm,
the like the certainty of a bad afterlife if you do magic.
yeah.
Like my point is it probably comes down to faith and belief rather
Mhm.
than nope, if you do magic you're damned.
You're damned, you're gone. Fair enough.
What do you think, Steve?
I think, it's hearing the whole damned question was something that we talked about a lot in the first read, and how we know what does damned mean,
Hmm.
and maybe we'll find out, maybe we won't. But I think I think a lot of what we hear a lot about Kellis and his thought process of belief and customs. Were I forget the exact quote, but belief, customs, and traditions are the strings that all men hang from, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the control that all those beliefs have over people, I think it's a, it kind of I think he plays with that whole thing about what does it really mean.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think Kells believes any of that, right? He's like, these are just ways of manipulating people. There's
Right,
no truth
just
in any of
control.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, speaking of that quote that you just brought up, Steve, I was poring over that yesterday because my husband was explaining Vipassana style of meditation to someone, and the belief system there is, or the philosophy or ideology, I don't know how to call it, but I guess let's call it ideology, perhaps, uh, is exactly what Kellis describes about the darkness that comes before. Except it is used to find inner peace and not to go manipulate the heck out of everyone you meet. So but
Yeah.
those were the things that he was listing when he talked about all the things that drive our thought. And Vipassana also
Yeah.
apparently strives for absolute awareness and so on and so forth. So that's
Well,
another
Kellis
real
does
world.
seem to have not too many inner conflicts, so maybe he has inner peace, maybe.
Yeah, he has, but he's killing other people's inner
I
peace.
don't know. It's not related to your inner peace, you're perfectly fine inside, you're just outside, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Is that how it is? Like when you achieve inner peace, you're nice to everyone? Is that how it works?
I think it's more no, I
I don't
suppose
know.
not. But I feel like you have less reasons to be cruel or to
Hmm, okay.
manipulate. Um, yeah,
But I guess we don't know exactly what Kelsey's trying to do, so
that's true. That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what what he's up to. And yeah, and that's the other thing I was thinking about. Kellis, and I don't know what Moing is up to, but we know how he was with Nayur and his people.
Yes.
They may be outliers in the Dunyan. Maybe the Dunyan are closeted because they're happy in how they are. But also that master that trained Kellis didn't seem very nice. So who knows?
Did we get the flashback of his youth, of his training, or no?
That was in the previous book.
Oh, was it? Okay, I'm trying to remember. Like which part?
Yeah.
All of it? Like in the.
So we got as far as like the bit we got in the darkness that comes before was he was chanting the logos has neither beginning nor
Hmm.
end, and then he had to drop a word each day. And
Oh, okay.
um,
He did it for
on the
until there's nothing
f-
left, right?
yeah, yeah, and then he got enlightenment about the logos. That's
Yeah, yeah. It's a
yeah,
pretty strict regime,
yeah. It is. It is a very
Yeah.
strict
but I don't
regime.
know what meditation, what how you do meditation in like monasteries or something like that. It's probably
I feel
not as
like
strict, but maybe.
don't you get like eating and sleeping breaks?
I mean, fasting is a pretty normal thing. I
Yeah,
would assume in many
that's true.
monastic cultures, right?
That's true. That's true.
It's always been said, like, oh, the less you eat. And there's some, like, what's it called then? Like, saintly men in India, which say they never eat, right?
Hmm.
I think
Really?
that's a common thing, like a common trope or whatever.
I so I don't know if there are any people who do that right now, but there are. So again, I feel like it might be just a matter of missed detail. It might be sundown to sunset or whatever. But
Yeah.
there are all these stories and pictures I remember from childhood of sages who spend years meditating because they want a boon from the god they're praying to. And the typical imagery is like they start having all this dust and mountains forming on top of them, so they get covered over like an ant. So it's just like they can barely breathe, and that's when the god appears to grant their boons. Like, I'm so proud of you for sticking through that. Tell me what you want. It's like, oh, give me power over you, give me power to kill you. So that's where that ends usually.
I think there's
Give
still
me
some
power
of
to
it in the sense that I remember reading, for example, of this man that like raised his arm like this, and then he
Hmm.
never lowered it again, and his arm is like sort of just died off, and it's still like you can see
Mm.
photos online of this guy, and his
Oh,
arm is
interesting.
still up, and he's like doing it as a sort of prayer or something like that, like you said, like offering or whatever,
Mm.
like to show that to get some sort of
Mm.
boon. I think he was doing it for world peace or something. I don't know,
Interesting.
but I feel
Yeah.
like it's like yeah, it's a thing in a lot of these either meditation or saintly men or monasteries or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a lot of weird stuff. People
Yeah.
everywhere in the world.
What was the other thing that was interesting? The oh man, the scene with Akamian when he wakes up and then no god continues talking in, that was terrifying. That was so well done. That scene was absolutely brilliant. I was so scared when I was reading it. Like, I could feel Akamian's fear, but I was afraid myself, like I wasn't just feeling it through him. I was afraid for what the heck was happening.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. What does the no god say?
Um,
What do you see?
Yeah, he says a couple of things in general, right?
Yeah, let
yeah.
me find out.
What do you see? And what was
What
the other
did you
thing?
say? I think at some point, and the thing that is so brilliant about this is it sounds in parts like he's reacting to what Akamian is saying. Right,
Hmm.
that's where it's placed, the interruption. Um, and it may or
That's
may not
true. Yeah.
be, but big.
Yes, oh, I'm sorry, Varsha. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll say he's. What do you see? I must know what you see. Tell me. What do you see? I cannot see. What am I? I cannot see. Tell me. So
Very
it's so.
mysterious, right? It really makes you like, what is going on here?
Yeah, yeah. And he does say also that the no god seems to be responding to the Seshwata in him,
Hmm.
which again is terrifying, that he's alive in some sense on this battleground, if Akamian's right.
Yeah.
But and I think the other reason I think this is absolutely brilliant is we don't know a lot about the no god at this point. But just the use of these terrifying capital letters and such rightly placed insertions of what
Mm-hmm.
he's saying and when is creating such terror in me. Yeah, I it's wonderful what he's done with this section. I love this scene.
Yeah, but Nogor is very interesting. He's so because we have so little details on what he is, right? Even no descriptions really are, right?
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
just makes it more terrifying, right? Because it's so
right.
like it seems so alien. It's like, what is he saying? This makes no sense. What is happening? Where did he come from? Right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's not much we know. We know that it, apparently he caused a bunch of. Do we know already, or did I get a spoiler that um that he did? I think it was written in the book that he didn't like being woken up, and that's what brought about the first apocalypse.
I
Um,
don't know if I would say I don't like didn't like waking up. He was
no.
like grumpy in the morning, so it's like fuck it, try everything.
He was chilling and he didn't like being brought back to
Oh,
the world.
okay. He was dead and he was brought back to life or something.
Yeah,
Need my
yeah.
coffee
Yeah.
first. Yes.
Without being given coffee. But
Better have coffee brewing.
Maybe.
so,
Who knows?
and speaking of Alien, the
Hmm?
Synthes. You
Mm.
weren't here, Dan, last time, but Carl and I were geeking out about the fact that apparently the Inkoroi are aliens, although we didn't know who the Inkoroi are.
Are they?
And they did say that they flew across the stars and they crashed or did something on this
Hmm.
world.
Yeah.
Very
But I mean,
interesting.
it could be a metaphor, right? It's like, you know what I
No, I
mean?
don't think so. I mean, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to shut you down.
No, no,
But,
no, no.
but there's a follow up here.
Mm-hmm.
It felt very clear, like not it didn't feel metaphoric, but I could be wrong. This when the Synthes, the crow with the human face, which again is terrifying. He's flying across the battlefield when he detects that
Mm-hmm.
Sarcellus has died. Here, let me see. Where's the? I thought I saw it here again. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The eastern skyline gradually brightened, then suddenly the sun cracked the horizon,
Mm-hmm.
lancing between the hills, over the corpse-strewn expanse of the battle plain, and out into the infinite black, where it would eventually trace a thread incomprehensibly long, perhaps all the way home.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, that and the other thing that I don't know about the alien bit, but they did somebody flew across the stars and came to
Yeah.
this world.
I'm just saying that we don't know that this world is like, okay, it's a sphere in this space. It could be just be, I don't know, think about the Egyptian. It's like flat and there's a dome and
Hmm.
outside is like the, I don't know, it could be like the realm of the gods or something. So it could just be that they came from heaven or something. You know what I mean?
That's true, and I guess Akamian's when he talks about the topoi,
Mm-hmm.
he says that you can see all the way to the outside. That sounds like what you
Hmm.
said. But the context in which, if I remember correctly, the spaceship thing came up was when Esmenet and Akamian were talking about how the stars are just other suns.
Hmm.
And Esmenet was disbelieving of Akamian, and Akamian was also just saying that some people say
Yeah.
that this is the case. And I don't remember how we went from there to the thought that um, somebody, you know what? I'm just going to search for the word Inkoroi. It doesn't come up very many times in the
Okay.
I
Kindle
don't,
book.
I
But
don't know if you want to search Inquiry in there
yeah,
for the
no,
whole book. I
don't.
wouldn't.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I do
You just
remember
put it
that
yourself.
exact passage of that you said about him and Esmenet talking. I remember when I
Mhm.
read it the first time, I was like, okay, this seems like in other books they usually say that to show that, like, how do I say? It's like, oh, that's the truth, but people don't realize it, right? But when I read this, I was like, oh, the author is baiting me. He's making me think that that's the truth, but it's not really, because it's like, oh, it's commonplace, but it's like that, but it must not be.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
That's what I
And
remember thinking.
that would be a great way to misdirect and subvert expectations.
Yeah,
That
we're
that
gonna figure
would.
it out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Some
Okay.
fun.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I just remember when I read it the first time. That's one of the things I remember thinking.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. I sometimes just tend to believe what the characters tell me, and then the author tells me, and then I'm like, I've been made a fool of.
I don't know. I try to think a lot of time when I'm reading, what does the author want me to think here? I mean, I try to think the opposite. Like, wait a second, what if I think the opposite? How does that recontextualize what I'm reading?
But do you think that because you assume that the author's misdirecting you, or do you think that because it's a fun exercise?
I like to think it because it puts things in different context. A lot of the time, right, you're reading something like, okay, the author wants me to feel this way about this character. He wants me to think, oh, he's good, or he's bad, or he's doing the right thing, or he's doing the wrong thing, or it's just a foreshadowing, right? But like, if I look at it objectively, is it actually true, right? Gives it a different
That's right.
perspective, I feel, on. I don't know. I think it's
Yeah.
an interesting exercise, I think, to see like, or how is the author, I'm reading something. It's like, how is the author effectively communicating what he wants me to feel? Because sometimes you're like, okay, I think I know what he's trying to say, but he's not doing a good job of that.
Yeah.
You know what I
That
mean?
makes sense. Yeah. Which we had another interesting question come up last time. Do you think that the one of the conclusions that can be drawn from the first book is that Baker is saying that there's no free will in this world?
Maybe. Well, in that world, or maybe he's making a point of our world, on our world.
Possibly. But I mean, for that, first I want him to tell me about his world, like be conclusive about his world, and then we can draw more from about
Yeah,
our world.
I know he has a name for his like philosophical. It's something I don't remember. Right? Do you remember, Steve?
I forget the name of it. I was just trying to think of it.
It's like what's the name of his blog? I think it's connected to the name of his blog, right? What was it? But he has the blind brain theory, I think. He wrote a paper about it, and I think it goes through a lot of what he writes too in fiction. I don't know. There's stuff after you read this. If you look at it online, there's some discussion on a lot of topics, like more expanded discussions, even from his point of view, like what his philosophy is on a lot of this. But I mean, it is an interesting thing to think about, right? Because what he's saying, it's not outlandish, is it? To think about it. If you think about the brain as a machine, then it would make sense. Just an infinitely complicated machine that we cannot understand, but if you could, then it would all make sense like a logic puzzle or something, right? That's sort of what he's saying.
It would, but then, and I suppose that's the conclusion you draw from the fact that Kellis can determine how someone's going to act or what they're going to say. But then, what about Kellis, right? So that he's my entry point or data point for that can't be what you're saying, or if it is, then you're not doing a good job of it because you still have to explain Kellis.
Well, is it not explained? Because he knows, right? What he's saying is that, okay, since I know where, like, he knows where he comes from, so he can exactly, govern how he feels, how he behaves, how he does everything, right? Like we
But
saw
he's
he can.
governing. But he's governing. He's deciding how to act.
Yeah, but maybe if you know exactly all these logic gates, then you can manipulate them maybe I don't know, but maybe even that is like, you know, you need to accept that there's external influences, but once you know those external influences, then you can manipulate. I don't know. Maybe it's impossible to perfectly evade these strings or, you know, the things that move you, but you need to realize what the things that move you are, and only that makes you, I guess, free or something, makes you like a human.
Yeah, that argument I will buy, but Callus is still free, right? At
Is
least
he?
it seems like it so far. If the conclusion that there's no free will is drawn from the fact that he can predict everything, then Callus and I guess the Dunian in general
Mm-hmm.
have free will, sort of. But then, which I guess brings us to the next point I wanted to discuss in these chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Callus has this whole breakdown about whether sorcery and the prophecy that Akamian told him about um, mean that what came after can
Yeah.
determine what came before. Then
Very
it
important, isn't it?
means that even he does not have free will. That is a possibility, but I don't think there was enough in the first book to say so.
Hmm. Yeah, because if that's true, right, then it means his whole theory is wrong, right? If
Hmm.
prophecies are things, right? Even if
Yeah.
magic is a thing, right? Well, maybe magic not. Magic doesn't destroy his theory, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
but prophecy does.
Well, magic, I suppose it it does to the theory as he knows it, in that he doesn't know how to predict outcomes. Perhaps.
Hmm.
Um, I did really appreciate the section where he was talking to the thing that is called Sarcellis, and he's like, "Yeah, I can read these guys now. I can start to understand them." So that was pretty cool. So, and I think we were talking about it last time, where we wondered whether he can't read them because they are consult and they are different, or because he just doesn't have enough data about them.
Well, now
Looks
we
like
know.
that question's been answered. So,
Yeah. I don't know, but I think the problem is here we haven't really gotten much more explanation on what the Dunyan believe.
hmm, yeah, yeah, that's
Because
true.
maybe there is all these things are answered, right? There's like a reason, or they're trying to, you know, once you perfectly know exactly what's moving you, then something happens. But maybe they believe you transcend to I don't know, you become a superhuman or something like that. I don't know. Or then
Hmm.
you can start having free will. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe,
It
maybe,
feels it's somewhat related to something like that, right?
perhaps. Yeah,
These relative ideas, right?
yep, yep.
But yeah, maybe he
That
just accept that he has no free will. Maybe that's his. I
that
don't know.
that's fair. But then, yeah, I guess we'll have to get into a whole philosophical debate about that. But the lack of free will means that something else is directing your actions, even if it's just physics, right?
Yeah,
In that case, why are you trying to manipulate people? um, so
yeah. But it could just be that you do have free will, but most people's free will is dominated by their culture and animal aspects, which they don't understand. So they think it's their free will, but it's not actually. It's
yeah,
just their environment. It could also be
that
just
makes
like that,
sense.
right?
Yeah, yeah. That and that's the point I got to.
Yeah.
But from based on some other discussions I watched, it felt like other people thought it was fairly obvious that he was saying that there's no free will, which I wasn't buying. So at least it's not clear cut to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not clear. You can interpret it in multiple ways, I think.
So did we already talk about the thing I said I wanted to talk about? Yeah. Do you, more thoughts on that? Like I didn't. I feel like I've been babbling. I didn't hear what you guys thought about the um, Callus Star Cellist discussion. That was a really cool scene too.
Yeah, it was fun to see them kind of have a face off with, and Kellis trying to break down, kind of predict what they're going to do next. To see them kind of battle it out, and it wasn't only just a physical thing; it was also like a outwitting or outmaneuvering and predicting things. So that was really neat to see them finally face off.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm trying to, yeah, and also how terrifying was it? I was like, I knew this wasn't true, but
Mm.
I thought for the briefest moment that a mistake had been made in the text, and I was like, it's obvious enough that I am probably just going to see something else. Like when the synthase is flying over the battlefield, it thinks to itself that Sarceris has died, and then a few minutes later, like a few passages down the line, Kellis sees Sarcellis, and I was like, wait, am I reading something that happened before what we saw from the synthase perspective? And then it was explained to us that no, they use the same face on a different person. I like, okay, that is, and I think there was a line there to treat a person as a position or something like that. That
Mm.
I thought was pretty cool.
A place.
Yeah,
Mm.
a
Oh yeah,
place.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice. I think
yeah.
he does it often, like Baker, right? He just suddenly drops a line, which is pretty important. Like something happened, you're like, wait a sec, wait, and you just read through it, and then you're like, wait a second, let me go back. What did that actually happen? It
Yeah.
goes very suddenly, and you need to, and you almost miss it sometimes, or you're like, oh, I don't
Mm.
know where this came from, and then it gets explained after.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really cool. I feel like that that's really cool writing because it takes such active engagement from the reader, right? Like, you're like, wait, did you make a mistake? No, you didn't. I know you didn't because I feel like somebody would have caught such an obvious one. And then when the explanation comes, it's really bloody cool.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even something simple like he was just revived by other members of the concert. Like, no, they took the same face and stuck it. Well, did they? Okay, that I guess it's slightly less explained because doesn't tell us whether they generated the body
Mm.
or they stuck it on a different alive body.
Mm.
And in that case, what am I reading right now which does this? Susanna's book. But is the other person still alive inside or is it just the consult? It's terrifying to contemplate
Mm.
either way. So
Yeah, I don't think it's explained yet, right? I don't think.
Not yet.
no.
Kellis does say though he's seen 11 of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the other terrifying. We just throw that in there and scare the hell out of us without telling us who it is.
Who are they? Yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like he often he purposely leaves things out or keeps things brief in sometimes. You're like, oh wait, I want to know a lot more. Explain
Mm-hmm.
to me a lot more about this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's more
It
curious.
is a very engaging style, I have to say, and I love the bits of the bits that aren't from anybody's perspective. It's just sort of a PSA or like news items, as Jared calls them sometimes. But I think we saw it a little bit in the Darkness That Comes Before. There was an explanation of how the Vulgar Holy War went. And then I think there's certain passages that just tell us where everyone is at. And then we go back to individual people. I really like that.
Yeah, it can be hard to keep track of what's exactly happening right now,
Yeah.
where everyone is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Did we get the Emperor, or we didn't go back to them, right? It's mostly the battlefield. Even Akamian we got very briefly. And then a lot of Kellis. I was talking last time about how I like more Kellis POV and feel like I got a satisfactory amount in this section.
Got a lot of Kellis in this one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. The shadow battle was cool. And then what else? I feel like did Esmenet just repeat what Akamian told her about what it's like to to talk to Kellis, or did we only get, because if it's the latter, it would be really cool. Like, did we just get Akamian's perspective about how it's like he's standing on higher ground and he can see everything? And I don't remember whether he told Esmenet that, but that's almost exactly how Esmenet describes it when she talks about how you can be really near or really far from him. In about Kellis, the conversation that's interleaved with the no gods interference uh, is when Esmina tells Akamian about how what she thinks it's like to have a conversation with Kellis, and the
What do you
far
think
bit
about
is
that? Like, what about how Kamian and Esme, what their relationship with Kellis is?
about how they both think the very similar things about them.
Well, and how they, I guess, admire him and respect him, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
does it feel, because it's very genuine from their side. Like, how
Hmm.
does it make you feel about the relation? What's your opinion?
I see. Um, for Akamian, I feel I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna say something really weird, but that is probably a good thing for him to have. Like, I feel like it's a friendship that he's really
Hmm.
happy to have, and I don't know if he'll get to a point like Nayur where he'll realize that he's been severely manipulated into doing something really horrible. If he never gets to that point with Kellis, I think it might be just something that he's happy in, and I'm happy for him for that,
Do you
because
think
of
it's
all the
fine to
students.
manipulate someone as long, if it's for
Yeah.
his good? Okay.
I mean, not necessarily for his, yeah, maybe. Not, it's not for his good. It's not, if he believes that maybe, uh, given all the students who spurned him, if
Hmm.
the conclusion of this relationship is he still has a healthy amount of respect from Kellis, I feel like I'd be okay with that. But
Is that what happens in a third book? Maybe. Who knows?
probably not, because Akamian wrote about how he came like a force of nature or whatever it was in that epigraph. So he
Mm.
did realize some things about him, but I don't know yet if that epigraph was him completely turning on Kellis. I feel like there was still some respect there somehow. Not the level of hatred that Nair has for him, but then I don't know that you can do much worse than making someone kill their own father. And
I mean, I think his father was a bit of an asshole, to be honest. I don't think there
that's
was
true.
much, how to say, father son love in between. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, but he does seem to regret it quite a bit, at least for the loss of that relationship, if nothing else.
Hmm.
What was I going to say?
I don't know.
But Esmenet,
Yeah.
I felt like had a healthy amount of suspicion for him, which I feel like she's completely lost, and now I'm afraid for her because I don't feel like Akamian's going to get anything out of Esmenet, so he's just going to use her, like he's using Serva. Um, at least so
Oh,
far,
you
I don't
mean
feel like,
Kalos is going to use Espenet? You mean?
yeah, to
Oh, not the Camion is going
manipulate
to use Espenet. Okay.
Akamian. Yeah,
Okay, I see.
yeah, like to get to Akamian somehow.
Hmm.
So because of that, I wish Esmenet would would have kept her suspicion.
Hmm.
But Akamian, I think it's fine. Let him
It's
be.
fine. It's fine.
This is
It's
how
fine.
it ends with all his students. It's fine. What's one more student if he gets to be happy for a little bit more, thinking that he's getting some respect out of it?
I guess. It just felt very, I remember when every time I read, it just feels very filthy, like dirty, how he
Mm,
manipulates them, right? And how they feel towards him. It's so different, right?
that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Although I think I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
any careless perspective where he's actively trying to manipulate them.
Mm.
We did see him try with Nair,
Mm-hmm.
but with these two, I don't. He's trying to work it out with Sarcellus. He's actively manipulating Sabon, who absolutely deserves it. Um, but we haven't. I feel like my opinion might change if I see how Callus is trying to manipulate those two. So far, it's from what I remember, it's mostly just I can learn from this guy, and that's it, right? That because he's so confused about the existence of sorcery, there's so much about war that he doesn't know
Yeah.
yet that Akamian's trying to teach him. When he supersedes his teacher, maybe the manipulation is still ongoing, but right now it feels, even from him, like a slightly honest relationship.
Interesting. I mean, he does say very wise things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But not wrong per se what he says, right? Sounds pretty
No.
good.
So here's a question. If you're being, what you said earlier, Dan, if you're being manipulated and you never find out that you were, and you get to have a good, happy relationship out of it, is that okay?
I don't know. That's a big question. It's the same question as like, okay, well, let's say you lose 90% of your mental capabilities, but you're happy, right? Is that better than being extremely smart but being sad? It's an interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sort of similar, it's vaguely related to like, does the end justify the means? It's very vaguely related concepts, right? That's it. I don't know.
Yeah. I like that that's your analogy straight. So you're basically losing mental capability in not detecting that you're being manipulated.
Well, it has somewhat a parallel because he's
No, I
like
agree.
so much like the way he says it, he sees everyone else as like children to him, like because he's so much
Yeah.
smarter than that, or more gifted, or he perceives a lot more, right? So I feel it's a fairly similar comparison, somewhat, or
Yeah,
like
I agree. I see it. Yeah.
I don't know. I also think about it like the same way as like animals, right? You can have a pet of your own, you can make him happy, but you're limiting his freedom. Is that better than just not having pets and letting them be animals be animals? I don't know. It's a question. A lot of people don't think about it, but it is
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're doing, right? Is that right? I don't know. Some would argue yes. Some would argue no. But it's something that it's very. I think that's one thing that it's can help you understand what Carlos is saying, because this like having pets is something which is very ingrained in our culture, but we don't even think about it. But if you think about it, exactly what it means, right, in an objective way, then you're like, wait a second, maybe, I should rethink. I'm not saying we should rethink of it. I'm saying that there is some merit to thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
And I think it's similar to what Carlos is saying. Like, we're being blinded by our own preconceptions. And, you're being just like all the other arguments. I don't know, is being happy the end all? Is being aware of everything the more important thing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing that Bakker said. I say other thing, but that's one of the things that seems to be a conclusion from what Bakker said in the first book, that I don't, well, not that I disagree, but I don't like that conclusion, and I want to think about it some more, is if you're like Kellis, if you're like the Dunian in that you have total self-awareness, then you're just this automaton who is all about execution and no feelings, apparently. Which again, like, I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe you're happy in that state, but something that bears thinking about, right?
I mean, is Kellis happy? Is it worth it? I don't know.
I don't think he has emotion, and I don't think that's a bad state.
Okay, but I actually here I don't know exactly, but for like a lot of I don't know, like Buddhism for example, right? To become a Buddha or something, right? You need to shed all your worldly desires and stuff like that. You need to shed all your emotions too to become like pure, I guess.
Yeah.
So at that point, do you not have any happiness? It's just perfection or something? It's that I don't know. Is that what you're trying to achieve? Maybe that's what he's trying to achieve. Is that better than just being happy and having faults and feelings? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess the end state, the closest word that comes to mind is peace, not
Yeah.
happiness.
Yeah.
And peace maybe is not such a bad thing, and it doesn't have to supersede happiness, or maybe peace is happiness in that state. I don't know.
Maybe that's what he's trying to achieve. I don't know.
Yeah. deep deep question.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was something like this came up when I was talking about Vipassana with my husband yesterday, but I forget what he said. He said very wise things that I don't know how to relay.
Oh, no.
But this did come up, the question of, okay, if you stop, if you don't let anything influence you, do you then stop feeling? And that's not true, but I don't remember his reasoning for why it's not true. Or is
Okay.
that such a bad state to be in? But anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a 10-day meditation camp that I cannot break down, and I'm not even aware of what they say, so I will not relay misinformation. But
Fair enough.
it is interesting. I feel like Baker's influenced by that. That's the reason I brought it up. I think it does seem very influenced by the Vipassana school of thought. I don't like what he did with it, but
Just wait.
Yeah. I don't know. He's got to do more things with his character. He got a lot more things with his character.
A couple things, yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna go where you've never been before. I think some of the implications of.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm eager for it. I was telling Steve earlier, I started missing this book a few days after putting it down, so that's a good place to be. I'm really enjoying, not enjoying, I don't think that's the right word, but I am appreciating this book.
Yes. But I feel like at this point you can understand why some people might not like it at all, might hate it.
Yeah. I
Very
suppose.
polarizing style and, well, I don't know. I feel.
I mean, you have to believe that the author is making certain statements, right? I feel like so far all I'm detecting is exploration, no clear statements one way or the other. It's, is this true or is this true? That might put people off, sure, but if you're reading as if that he's making claims one way or the other, then I might see that whatever claim you disagree with might put you off as well.
Okay. Do you like that? Just the book just posing questions, not giving you any answers?
That's my favorite kind of book.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't do quotes. For Carl, Steve, some quotes.
Okay, let's see. Other ones. Mystery made things. Oh, I can't even read my writing. Mysteries could be killed if one possessed the power.
Mysteries could be killed.
What does that mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there was one about knowledge and mystery. Oh, what was it?
Knowledge made small.
Yeah. Something made big and knowledge made small. That was cool.
Mystery made things titanic. Knowledge
Yes,
made small.
Ah,
If I could read my writing. Yeah.
that's nice.
That's nice. I didn't like the epigraphs in this one. I think the one to chapter 8 made me wish that we were reading one of the Manifest Illusions book, and that there was a second person calling that person a twat. Because does he understand what he's saying? What is that?
Yeah, that was good. Let's see. The other one was the future is indifferent.
Oh, yeah.
And also, the future's a horror too, but yeah,
Yes.
it's indifferent. Yeah.
And he did go from there to trying to decide whether the future really is indifferent, and it weighs some events more than the others. That was the beginning of Callus's thought process about does what come after drive what comes before. That was pretty cool. See, that's also an exploration about fate, right? Fate and prophecy is in some ways someone's fate determined.
Yeah.
So that also is interesting.
Who knows? It is a very quotable book, though. these books.
Oh, yeah.
Very
That's
quotable.
true. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I don't know, with Malazan, maybe I don't read this way anymore, but there aren't that many single sentences that I would quote, but there are passages, long passages that
Yeah.
I love. This one is more of a quote book.
Yeah.
There are also passages that I love, but the quotes stand out a lot more, I
I think
think.
Malazan is more like painting the picture, sort of,
Yeah.
through multiple paragraphs.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Same with, I think, Wars of Light and Shadow, for that matter. There's paragraphs and passages that I would highlight, but single sentences, this series.
I feel like doing single sentences might be harder than
No, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
I feel.
And it's hard to do that without sounding like you're preaching, right?
Yeah.
Or like you're,
I mean,
yeah,
he is kind of
that
preaching in a sense a lot of these times. Like the people that say these sentences are kind of preaching, right?
they are, but what's in it would I would consider it as, and maybe it still is, but I would consider it as the author preaching if it was always the same person, or like we had a clear favorite main character who is doing the preaching and he's like above everyone else and he's teaching everyone how to live. But
Yeah.
all of these quotes take the collection of things that we liked across the last few episodes, right? And you they're spread across a whole bunch of people belonging to several different schools of thought. So there's
Yeah.
no, like, it's not even the author saying these things. It's just, and this is what I like about Malazan too. Like there are things that I like that a character says or does, but I don't. It's something that's resonating with me, and I'm only engaging with that character in that instance. It's not necessarily with the author. For all I know, it's possible the author doesn't even agree with that
Yeah.
statement. You know?
I think, and I think you're right. If I feel like it feels like it's coming from, like their characters are trying to give you a lesson from their perspective, from their, knowledge or their truths, right? So it feels like it
Yeah.
comes from some sort of important, like, inner part of the characters, right?
Right. It's the difference between having one teacher teach you everything and like, I don't know how much I agree with, versus you meet a whole bunch of people, each one says different things that work for you or that you agree with, and I feel like that's what this is.
Yeah. And even if you don't agree sometimes with, their point, it's still an interesting, it still comes from something that you might think about. There's some kernels of truth inside.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Even if it comes from a character you completely detest, it's like it's making sense in this moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes it a very rereadable book.
Oh, yeah.
All these things.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. Any other closing thoughts before we go?
No, I think we're good.
Not really. I feel like
Good
I'm
stuff.
gonna, for the rest of this book and the next one, I'm just gonna skim. But when we get to the second Apocalypse one, I'm probably just gonna reread.
Nice.
Ooh.
Cool.
Because I haven't read it as I think I've read that 2 less times than the first trilogy. I feel.
2 less times.
I think so. I think I've only read it twice. I think. The second quadrology.
I was thinking I might make this a yearly thing, like a
Oh, wow. You like it that much? Wow.
yeah.
Maybe you should, instead of rereading, you should do like, let's read this section of the forums and discuss all the theories of all these people, or let's read the history of the era or something, because there's a lot of auxiliary discussion.
What I'd really like to do is do like character studies, or like focusing on a certain character and then exploring that character, or like a storyline or a theme or an idea. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So when we're done with the series, we can do some crazy shit.
Yeah. What I
like
really
that.
would like is I would like to play in RPG setting with my own character. That's what I would really like.
Nice.
But I don't think we're ever going to get that.
Do you know which faction you would want to be?
I don't know. But there's so many interesting factions and so many interesting things you could do with it. Even just without the characters, just like the world building is really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even the magic system, all this stuff, it's so flavorful to me. It will be very interesting.
That's true.
I don't think it's ever going to happen.
I've never played an RPG game, but that sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, or see a mini series of these books. That would be. It's never going to happen.
All wishful thinking.
Yeah, at least we've been seeing like recently with all the generative AI stuff. I mean, I don't know what your opinion on that is, but I've seen a lot of people on Reddit like post screenshots that they generated, like art they generated from all these books with them, and it's pretty cool because I don't think there's no official art, and there's not many artists that do art for these books.
I'm kind of surprised. Yeah, there are some cool. I'll find some and post some in the forum so you can avoid Reddit, because the community there is wonderful. I'm really great, supportive, like really great community there, but they're really bad at putting spoilers in titles.
Yeah,
I saw one just a couple days ago. So
yeah, we should just finish the series and then spend some time, before the next time, let's go on the Reddit and find some interesting posts on the forums. There are interesting posts for discussion for next time.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. We have to remember that for when we finish the series.
Yeah.
I like that.
I remember going through it and I was like reading, what do you think happened in these chapters in this series? And I was like, and a bunch of people discussing is like, wait a second, I missed like a lot of that.
Yeah.
Or that's actually wild theory that might be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're done.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Cool. Okay, so Dan, where can people find you?
You can find me in Patreon forum. That's it.
Cool.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Nothing complicated.
We gotta make a game out of shortening Dan's outro each time.
It's very short. I've done nothing else.
It's like 5
Even-
words. Yeah.
I'm just very
Just-
tired. I've just been working every day for the last 2 weeks.
Oh no.
I spent 4 hours making Christmas dinner today. Even though it's not Christmas, but lunch, not dinner.
Nice.
Was it good?
It was fine.
Nice.
It was fine.
It was fine. Your opinions may vary depending on your tastes.
That's true.
That's fair.
And Steve.
You can find me on the Patreon forums or on too many podcasts to list. Just find me on pagechewing.com. I post all the stuff there, so you can find whatever we're up to there.
Cool. And you can find me on the Patreon forum as well. I hang out there all the time. My YouTube channel, Reading by the Rainy Mountain. If you would like to join us for these discussions, either just on the forum or here in the conversations, come check out the Patreon forum. We do all our planning there. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in a week. Bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.